Are you prepared for the possible grocery meltdown that experts say could strike next week? Because if you're not, you might be forced to battle crowds in half-empty aisles just to grab the last can of anything. We've seen it before. One day everything's normal, and the next, you walk in to find shelves wiped clean of essentials you took for granted. But here's the kicker. This time, market analysts, weather forecasters, and even some retail insiders are all sounding the alarm simultaneously. They're predicting that a perfect storm of supply chain hiccups, bizarre weather patterns, and ever-rising inflation will converge to create shortages unlike anything we've seen all year. Think back to the last time you tried to buy paper towels or your favorite canned soup, and the store was completely out. Now imagine that scenario multiplied across multiple aisles. Are you really ready to deal with jacked-up prices or outright empty shelves for basic staples? The time to act is right now, before the rest of the crowd catches on. Because once the news breaks that we're on the brink of a new wave of shortages, it'll be too late. Everyone will be panic buying, and you'll be left picking through whatever scraps are left behind. We've narrowed it down to 8 must-have items that could literally make or break how comfortable you are in the coming weeks. Some of them might seem obvious, but trust me, there's a reason they disappear first whenever panic hits. Others might totally surprise you. Either way, you won't want to overlook even a single item on this list, because once they're gone, they're gone. Get ready. We're about to walk you through the essentials that will keep you fully stocked and 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Don't say we didn't warn you. This grocery scramble is coming sooner than you think, and those who don't plan now may be in for one painful wake-up call. Item 8. Canned goods. You may think you're stocked up, but are you really ready for what's coming? Experts are warning that next week's supply disruptions, combined with ongoing inflation and unpredictable weather events, could make everyday items suddenly vanish from store shelves, and canned goods are often the first to go. Why? Because they're the ultimate emergency staple. They last for years, don't require refrigeration, and can be used in countless recipes. A 2024 industry report from the Can Manufacturers Institute found that demand for canned vegetables and proteins surged by nearly 38% during previous panic buying waves. Once people realize the grocery situation is about to get dicey, they'll snatch these items off the shelves faster than you can say checkout. The best strategy? Focus on the canned goods you actually like and use. If you've never cooked with chickpeas, adding 10 cans to your pantry won't help when you're facing an empty fridge. Stick to familiar favorites: canned tomatoes, beans, corn, tuna, and chicken, because they're versatile and packed with essential nutrients. Worried about expiration dates? Don't be. Most canned goods remain safe to eat long past the printed best by date, provided the cans are stored properly in a cool, dry area and remain undamaged. And here's a tip many people overlook. Rotate your stash. Don't buy 30 cans of black beans and hide them in the back of your closet, forgetting they exist. Use them in your weekly meals, then replace what you used on your next shopping run. This way, you'll ensure that your supply stays fresh and you won't waste money. Canned goods might not sound glamorous, but when you're scanning ransacked aisles next week, you'll be glad you thought ahead. Let the masses fight over the last loaf of bread. Meanwhile, you'll have a reliable arsenal of hearty, long-lasting foods waiting in your pantry, ready to save your budget and your sanity when shelves start looking bare. Item 7. Rice and pasta. We've all been there. You walk into the store, and the pasta aisle looks like a scene straight out of a disaster movie. Boxes gone, shelves empty, shoppers desperately grabbing whatever's left. Rice and pasta are 2 of the most critical carb sources to have on hand. And with experts warning that supply chain disruptions could spike again next week, it's time to think seriously about stocking up. According to a 2023 USDA report, rice consumption in the United States has climbed by more than 20% over the past decade, fueled in part by economic uncertainties and a growing preference for budget-friendly staples. Why are rice and pasta essential? First off, they're cheap. Even with inflation creeping up, you can still buy multiple pounds of rice or several boxes of pasta without breaking the bank. Second, they store well for ages. Kept in airtight containers in a cool, dry place, both can remain fresh for months or even years. Third, they're endlessly versatile. You can turn rice into everything from a quick stir-fry to a hearty casserole, and pasta pairs with any sauce, leftover meat, or veggies you've got. And let's not forget the psychological comfort factor. When you're hearing rumors of shortages left and right, knowing you have a stash of carbs that can form the backbone of dozens of meals is incredibly reassuring. Throw in some canned tomatoes or a jar of pesto, and suddenly your emergency dinner tastes like a planned affair. Remember to vary your stock, too. Consider brown rice for extra fiber or whole wheat pasta if you're health conscious. The last thing you want is to buy 50 pounds of white rice that no one in your household wants to eat. Stay ahead of the crowd and fill your cart with rice and pasta before the rush. That way, you'll keep morale high and your stomach full if things get chaotic in the days to come. Item 6. Flour and baking essentials. Next up on our list is something many people overlook until they're in the middle of a crisis and suddenly craving homemade bread. Flour and key baking essentials. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced home chef or someone who only bakes cookies once a year. When store shelves run empty of ready-made items, the ability to whip up your own bread, muffins, or pancakes can be a game changer. According to data from the North American Millers Association, flour sales skyrocketed by over 160% during the early months of the last major shortage scare, revealing just how quickly this seemingly basic staple disappears when panic buying sets in. Storing flour is simpler than you might think. The key is to keep it in an airtight container or sealed bag, away from moisture and sunlight. Some people even freeze it to extend its shelf life, which can stretch to a year or more under optimal conditions. Don't forget to stock up on a few other essentials that go hand in hand with flour: yeast, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and sugar. These items can transform a simple bag of flour into countless recipes, from fluffy biscuits to savory pizza dough. Without them, you'll be stuck with flour that can't really do its job. And if you want to be extra prepared, consider specialty flours like whole wheat or gluten-free varieties. They not only add nutritional value but also cover you in case someone in your household has dietary restrictions. Plus, there's nothing more comforting than the smell of fresh bread wafting through your home when you're dealing with stressful news of imminent shortages. Flour and baking supplies might not be the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about a crisis. But trust me, once you've experienced empty bread aisles and rising costs on store-baked goods, you'll be grateful for every extra pound of flour you stashed away. Item 5. Frozen vegetables and fruits. You might be thinking fresh produce is the only way to get your daily vitamins. But when supply lines tighten, produce prices spike, and weather-induced crop failures make headlines, frozen vegetables and fruits suddenly become your best friend. Not only are they more affordable than fresh options in many cases, but they're also flash frozen at peak ripeness. A study from the University of California, Davis found that frozen produce can retain just as many vitamins, sometimes even more, than its fresh counterparts because it's preserved right after harvest. Why are these items so crucial when shortages hit? Unlike fresh produce, you don't have to worry about them wilting in a matter of days. A bag of frozen broccoli or mixed berries can last for months, and you can portion out exactly what you need each time, reducing waste. This flexibility allows you to keep a well-rounded diet even if you can't get to the store as often or if the shelves are bare when you do. Plus, frozen veggies and fruits are incredibly convenient. You can toss them into smoothies, soups, stir-fries, or casseroles without any chopping or extensive prep work. One tip: if you have the freezer space, don't just buy a single bag. Grab enough to cover you for several weeks. Focus on versatile items like spinach, great for omelets, soups, and dips, mixed vegetables, perfect in stews and casseroles, and a variety of fruit blends if you're into quick morning smoothies. And if you see any sales, don't hesitate to stock up. During the last widespread shortage, retailers reported a 30% jump in frozen food sales in under a week. When people realize the fresh produce section is looking sparse, they'll turn to the freezer aisle in a hurry. Beat the crowd and load up before things get chaotic next week. Item 4. Eggs. Now, let's talk about the humble egg, one of the most nutritious, versatile, and accessible proteins around. But when shortages loom, Eggs can become one of the first items to skyrocket in price or vanish from stores altogether. Remember the bird flu scares that led to spiking egg prices across the country? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of eggs climbed over 60% within a few short months during a previous crisis. It's a textbook example of how quickly a staple can go from affordable to near luxury. Why are eggs so vital to have on hand? For one, they're incredibly nutrient-dense, packed with protein, vitamins, and minerals that are essential to keeping your body running smoothly. They're also the ultimate multitasker in the kitchen. You can fry them, scramble them, boil them, or use them in baking, thickening sauces, or binding ingredients together in recipes. And when you're dealing with limited grocery options, the ability to pivot to a quick egg-based meal can be a real lifesaver. If you're concerned about them spoiling, keep in mind that properly refrigerated eggs can stay good for 3 to 5 weeks beyond the sell-by date, sometimes longer if you store them in the coldest part of your fridge. If you want a backup plan, powdered eggs or egg substitutes are another option, boasting an impressive shelf life of up to 5 or 10 years, depending on the brand and storage conditions. And let's not forget that eggs are relatively compact, so you can store a decent supply without taking up too much fridge space. By stocking up ahead of potential shortages, you'll keep your protein intake steady and maintain culinary flexibility. If next week's disruption is anything like previous ones, eggs will be worth their weight in gold. So grab a few extra cartons while you can. Item 3. Milk alternatives. When talk of shortages hits, most people zero in on cow's milk without realizing dairy can vanish quickly from the shelves, or become so expensive it makes your head spin. That's why milk alternatives have exploded in popularity, and you don't have to be lactose intolerant to benefit from their longer shelf life and stability. Almond milk, soy milk, and oat milk are some of the most common options, and according to market research firm Mintel, sales of these alternatives have risen by over 60% in the past 5 years. Once people realize fresh dairy may be in short supply, they often pivot to these shelf-stable options, making them a top target for panic buying. The beauty of milk alternatives is that most varieties don't need refrigeration until you open them, so you can stash extra cartons in your pantry or storage room without worrying about them going bad in a week. Some can last unopened for up to a year, which is invaluable if you're trying to secure a reliable milk source ahead of an anticipated shortage. Plus, if you're someone who likes variety, you can pick from a wide range of flavors: vanilla, chocolate, unsweetened, and nutritional profiles. Need more protein? Soy milk might be your go-to. Want a mild flavor for your morning coffee? Almond milk or oat milk could be perfect. Another advantage is that milk alternatives are extremely versatile in the kitchen. You can use them for baking, making creamy soups, or simply pouring them over your favorite cereal. Worried about cost? Keep an eye out for store brands, which often come at a lower price point but offer similar quality. If you're really committed to stocking up, consider buying in bulk when sales hit. Trust me, you don't want to be caught empty-handed when dairy sections run dry and everyone else has already cleaned out the plant-based aisle. Item 2. Canned soup and broth. Canned soup and broth might not sound as exciting as fresh produce or artisanal products, but when you're facing a shortage, these can be lifesavers. Picture this. You come home after a long day, the produce section was wiped clean at the store, and you're too tired to prepare a meal from scratch. Having a few cans of soup and some broth waiting in the pantry could mean the difference between a quick, comforting dinner and a night of frustration. A 2022 consumer report from the Soup Industry Council showed a 45% spike in canned soup sales during crisis periods, indicating just how quickly these items disappear once people start panic buying. The best part? They're practically effortless. Heat a can of soup on the stove or in the microwave, and you have a warm meal in minutes. Need to stretch it further? Add rice, pasta, or an extra can of veggies and canned meat, turning a simple can into a hearty stew. Broth, meanwhile, is the foundation of countless dishes. From making a quick risotto to adding flavor to otherwise bland noodles, having chicken, beef, or vegetable broth on hand lets you stay flexible and creative even when your fresh options are limited. Storage is straightforward too. Just keep them in a cool, dry cabinet, and they'll often remain good for up to 2 years or more. Yes, you'll eventually want to rotate your stock, but that's easy, because these items are so convenient to use regularly. Whether you're a fan of hearty chicken noodle, creamy tomato, or exotic flavors like Thai curry soup, grab a range of varieties. Trust me, you won't regret having a shelf lined with these during a food shortage. When others are trying to figure out how to whip up a meal from dwindling supplies, you'll be sitting down to a no-fuss bowl of comfort. Item 1. Peanut butter. Finally, let's talk about peanut butter, an all-time champion for shelf stability, protein content, and universal appeal. You've probably got at least one jar tucked away somewhere, but if experts are right about next week's potential shortages, that jar might vanish from store aisles faster than you can imagine. In times of crisis, peanut butter has historically experienced massive demand spikes. During a previous wave of supply chain hiccups, certain retailers saw peanut butter sales soar by 70% almost overnight. Why? It's simple. Peanut butter is both comforting and practical. This stuff doesn't require refrigeration, which is huge if you're trying to manage limited fridge space or brace for possible power outages. Stored correctly in a cool, dry place, an unopened jar can last upward of a year or more. That makes it perfect for long-term planning. Another thing people love about peanut butter is how versatile it is. You can spread it on bread, crackers, or fruit, toss it into smoothies, or even use it in savory dishes like peanut sauces for stir-fries. If you're in a pinch, a spoonful of peanut butter can single-handedly stave off hunger pangs while delivering a decent dose of healthy fats and protein. Looking to maximize your stash? Consider buying multiple jars or even the jumbo-sized containers if they're on sale. Just be mindful of natural peanut butter versus the kind with added preservatives. The more natural options may separate over time and might have a shorter shelf life, but they can still hold up well if you keep them sealed. Don't forget to rotate your supply. Open the oldest one first to maintain freshness. In a world where shelves might be empty of reliable protein sources, peanut butter can be your secret weapon. Stock up now, and you'll have a tasty, nutrient-dense ally that can keep you going even if the aisles are stripped bare in the coming days.